Picture this. It's London, 1940. The air raid sirens are wailing their mournful song, a sound that chills you to the bone even if you've heard it 100 times. The sky outside isn't just dark, it's on fire, reflecting the hellish glow of distant explosions. You're huddled in your tiny flat, perhaps under the kitchen table, clutching your loved ones, and the deadliest threat isn't the bomb itself, not directly. No, it's the glass in your own windows, waiting to shatter inward like 1,000 razor-sharp daggers, propelled by the sheer force of the blast. Imagine that terror, that helplessness. Now, what if I told you that one cheap roll of ordinary brown paper tape slapped on in a quick X pattern could cut the death toll from those flying glass fragments by half? It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Like something out of a child's craft project, not a wartime innovation. Yet, it worked then, saving countless lives and preventing horrific injuries. And here's the kicker. Hardly anyone remembers it today. But this ingenious, low-tech solution, born of necessity and human ingenuity, still holds surprising relevance in our modern world. Number 1. The night the sky shattered, September 7th, 1940, 5 p.m. That date, that time, marks the true beginning of the London Blitz. A terrifying armada of 348 German bombers descended upon the city, and within moments the placid River Thames was no longer its usual murky gray. It was a terrifying, shimmering orange, reflecting the inferno raging across the docks and East End. Over 400 fires ignited almost simultaneously, painting the skyline with a brutal, fiery canvas. It was a night of unimaginable destruction, a true test of London's spirit. But amidst the chaos, firemen and ARP, air raid precautions wardens, those brave souls risking their lives on the streets, began to notice something profoundly odd. On some streets, windows, caught in the concussive force of the blasts, blew out entirely, sending lethal shards spraying across rooms and pavements. Yet, on others, windows, though undeniably damaged, didn't explode. Instead, they sagged inward like wet paper, held together, albeit mangled, in one surprisingly cohesive sheet. What was the difference? It was a simple, unassuming, 3-inch wide strip of gummed brown paper tape crisscrossed over the panes. No fancy chemistry, no complex engineering, no precious ration coupons spent on high-tech materials, just paper and glue. Prior to the Blitz, Londoners had been advised to apply this tape in leaflets titled "If the Invader Comes," distributed by the government. But let's be honest, who really believed it would make a difference? Most rolled their eyes, dismissed it as another bit of bureaucratic fuss, or simply procrastinated. Until that night. The grim reality of the Blitz quickly changed minds. Doctors at St. Bartholomew's and other hospitals across the city later reported a staggering statistic. During the first brutal month of the Blitz, a horrifying 60% of all blast injuries admitted were caused by glass fragments. Think about that. More than half of the people hurt weren't hit by bombs directly, but by their own windows turning into weapons. But in buildings where that simple tape had been applied, that number plummeted to a mere 12%. The tape didn't stop bombs, of course, nothing could, but it absolutely stopped glass from becoming bullets. It transformed a deadly projectile into a relatively harmless, albeit messy, crumpled sheet. It was a stark, undeniable testament to the power of a tiny, overlooked intervention. Number 2. A trick, borrowed from Spain. Here's a fascinating twist. The idea wasn't even British in origin. Like many ingenious solutions, it was a concept forged in the crucible of an earlier conflict. 3 years before the Blitz, during the brutal Spanish Civil War, the citizens of Barcelona were enduring their own horrific aerial bombardments. Their newspapers, surprisingly, weren't just filled with war reports. They were publishing DIY diagrams for window protection. These weren't elaborate blueprints, mind you, but simple, clear illustrations showing how to apply rubberized paper strips, often in diagonal patterns, to both sides of the glass. The ingenuity was immediate and widespread. Shopkeepers, ever resourceful, would repurpose old bakery wrapping paper, cutting it into strips. Kids, eager to help and perhaps a little thrilled by the novelty, would lick the gummed edges, turning a mundane chore into a communal effort. And when Franco's Air Force unleashed a devastating barrage of 100 bombs on Barcelona's bustling Gran Via in March 1938, those taped windows proved their worth. They didn't just protect property, they kept pedestrians alive, preventing the streets from becoming killing fields of flying glass. A sharp-eyed Reuters reporter, understanding the critical importance of this simple defense, smuggled photos of Barcelona's taped windows back to London. British civil defense boffins, those brilliant, often eccentric, scientists and engineers working behind the scenes, quickly recognized the potential. They filed the clipping under a rather dry but accurate category: low-cost mitigation. The seed was planted. By 1939, as the shadows of war lengthened over Europe, the concept had been refined. Every ARP warden, the backbone of Britain's civil defense, carried a pocket version of those Spanish diagrams. The Brits, ever practical, made a slight modification. They swapped the Spanish rubberized paper for a more readily available and cheaper alternative: water-activated gummed paper, much like what was used for postage stamps or parcel sealing. This meant it could be applied faster, and, crucially, often only to one side of the glass, simplifying the process for millions of households. The diagonal X quickly became the standard, a symbol of resilience against the coming storm. Though, it must be said, some fussier homeowners, perhaps clinging to a shred of normalcy amidst the chaos, opted for more elaborate Union Jack grid patterns. In the end, though, vanity didn't matter. Physics did. The underlying principle remained the same: distribute the stress, hold the fragments. Number 3. How a strip of paper outsmarts a shockwave. So, how does a flimsy strip of paper outsmart the immense destructive power of a bomb's shockwave? It all comes down to the fundamental properties of glass and the cunning application of basic physics. Glass, by its very nature, is incredibly strong in compression, but remarkably weak in tension. Imagine pushing on a pane of glass. It can withstand a lot. Now imagine pulling it. It's far more likely to snap. When a bomb detonates, its blast front isn't just a sudden push. It's a complex, multi-phase event. It arrives at speeds exceeding 6,000 ppm, slamming into a window pane and spiking the air pressure to a staggering 20 atmospheres. This initial, incredibly powerful compression phase causes the pane to flex outward. That outward flex puts the glass under immense tension. And that's where it fails. Untempered shards released from this sudden tension can travel at speeds of up to 100 mph, fast enough to slice an artery, blind an eye, or cause catastrophic internal injuries. The Humble tape, however, adds 2 crucial things to this equation, effectively turning a deadly weakness into a manageable problem. First, it acts as a flexible membrane, a sort of elastic safety net. As the pane flexes outward under the blast, the tape takes up some of that tensile strain, distributing the force across a larger area rather than allowing it to concentrate at a single point where the glass would typically shatter. It buys the glass a fraction of a second, a tiny bit of give. Second, and perhaps even more importantly, the crisscrossed tape creates a spider web of fibers that keep the kinetic energy of the breaking glass contained within the sheet itself. Think of baseball. If you throw it at a brick wall, it hits, and the energy is absorbed by the solid, unyielding surface. The ball might deform, but the wall stays put. Now, imagine catching that same baseball in a well-padded mitt. The mitt gives, it flexes. It absorbs the energy over a longer period and larger area, bringing the ball to a controlled stop. The taped glass behaves much like that mitt. It still cracks, it still breaks. The bomb blast is simply too powerful to prevent that. But because of the tape, the individual pieces don't fly outward as deadly projectiles. Instead, they stay glued to the tape, tumbling to the floor like a sheet of wet cardboard, the fight harmlessly collapsing rather than exploding. This simple act of containment had profound ripple effects. Beyond preventing injuries, it offered unexpected benefits. Insurance data from 1941, painstakingly collected amidst the ruins, revealed that taped shop fronts lost 70% less stock to secondary damage from rain and looters. Why? Because even though the glass was broken, the tape held the barrier in place, keeping the elements out and opportunistic thieves at bay. One East End grocer, whose shop had survived multiple near misses, famously claimed the tape saved more inventory than his expensive, heavy steel shutters. It was a low-cost solution with high-impact results, proving that sometimes the simplest ideas are the most revolutionary. Number 4. The invisible workforce. Applying this protective tape was, let's be honest, grunt work. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't heroic in the traditional sense, but it was absolutely vital. Imagine the scene. A saucer filled with water, perhaps a chipped enamel one from the kitchen, sitting on the windowsill. You'd unroll a length of the gummed brown tape, dunk it into the water, and then, with practiced efficiency, squeeze it flat against the pane using a folded newspaper, smoothing out any bubbles or wrinkles. A typical living room window, depending on its size, might take a minute, maybe 90 seconds, if you were quick. Multiply that by every window, in every home, every shop, every public building across a vast city, and you begin to grasp the sheer scale of the effort. Nails were rationed, metal was precious, so there were no tacks or pins to secure the tape. The gum had to do the job, and it did, holding firm against the elements and, more importantly, against the immense forces of war. Children, often too young for formal war work but eager to contribute, became an integral part of this invisible workforce. A tuppence a window was a common payment, giving them a sense of purpose and a little pocket money in return for their diligent efforts. By 1941, the demand for this humble material was immense. Britain's Ministry of Supply, the logistical nerve center of the war effort, requisitioned every available paper mill shift to churn out an astonishing 50 million yards of this tape every single month. To put that in perspective, that's enough tape to stretch from London to New York and back, almost 10 times over. The rolls themselves were utilitarian, unbleached, and often smelled faintly of potato starch, a reminder of the simple, natural components. Each roll came stamped with a stark, practical instruction: save for reuse. This wasn't a disposable commodity. Resourcefulness was a wartime virtue, and housewives, the unsung heroes of the home front, became masters of conservation. After an air raid, or when the tape eventually started to peel, they'd carefully remove it intact. They'd roll it up, steam it flat over a kettle to reactivate the gum, and then reapply it, often to the same windows. One well-cared-for roll could, incredibly, survive 3 bomb seasons, a testament to its durability and the determination of those who used it. In Liverpool, a city that suffered some of the most intense bombing outside of London, a Catholic girls' school took a unique approach. They taped their precious stained glass saints, preserving not just the windows but also priceless works of art. Remarkably, that tape stayed up, a quiet, almost forgotten memorial to the war, until 1952, long after the war had ended and new glazing finally replaced the old. It's a poignant reminder of how deeply ingrained this simple defense became in the fabric of everyday life. Number 5, forgotten by victory. V-Day arrived, a day of unparalleled jubilation and relief, and with it, the great cleanup. Britain, utterly exhausted but victorious, was ready to rebuild, to forget the grim realities of war. Scrap drives, which had been a vital part of the war effort, now focused on reclaiming valuable materials for reconstruction. Aluminium pans, steel girders, anything that could be melted down and repurposed, was eagerly sought. But paper, that humble brown-gummed tape, it was simply pulp. Within weeks of the war's end, ARP depots across the country, those bustling hubs of civil defense, were systematically pulping their vast stocks of unused tape. It was an act of forgetting, a collective desire to erase the physical scars of conflict. Post-war building codes. Driven by a new era of safety and technological advancement, mandated thicker glass, then laminated panes, and eventually the sophisticated tempered glass we know today. These new materials offered inherent strength and safety far beyond what tape could provide. The little brown strips, once a symbol of defiance and protection, became landfill, their memory buried beneath the gleaming chrome and solid concrete of a modernizing nation. Historians, understandably, focused on the grand narratives of the war, the development of radar, the miracle of penicillin, the incredible engineering feat of the Mulberry Harbors, the terrifying dawn of the atomic age. These were the stories of monumental innovation, of strategic genius. The humble window tape, it barely warranted a footnote, if it was mentioned at all. It was too small, too mundane, too everyday to capture the imagination of those writing the official histories. Yet, if you know where to look, a ghostly echo of this forgotten defense still remains. Walk past an old Georgian building in certain parts of London today, perhaps number 23 Kingly Street, and if the light hits it just right, you might still see faint outlines, a subtle, baked into the ancient glass by decades of relentless sun, a phantom mark on the pane. It's the only monument, the only lasting physical testament to a defense that cost less than a penny per life saved. A silent, fading reminder of a time when ingenuity meant survival and simplicity was genius. Number 6. Gummed tape barrier. The threat isn't bombs, thankfully, but crime. Burglaries remain a persistent problem, and for a determined intruder, one of the fastest, easiest routes into a home isn't forcing a lock. It's often a brick through a patio door or a smashed ground floor window. And here's where the forgotten physics of World War II comes roaring back into relevance. The same principles apply. Contain the shards, deny silent entry, buy crucial time. Security companies, ever eager to sell us peace of mind, offer pricey specialized films designed to reinforce glass. And yes, they work. But what if I told you that a few rolls of ordinary gummed brown parcel tape, perhaps 3 vertical strips, 3 horizontal, or a robust diagonal grid, can buy you almost the same critical 10-second delay for a fraction of the cost? A fascinating 2023 test conducted by the London Metropolitan Police, designed to assess home security vulnerabilities, demonstrated this perfectly. An untapped pane of standard household glass could be breached by an intruder in a mere 1.2 seconds. Barely enough time for your brain to register the sound, let alone react. But that same pane reinforced with simple parcel tape? It took the intruder 9.4 seconds to gain entry. That's a massive difference. In those extra 8.2 seconds, an alarm would already be screaming, neighbors would be alerted, and the burglar's chances of success would plummet dramatically. The cost for this simple, effective deterrent? A paltry 30 pence, maybe a pound if you go for premium tape. The results of that test, when they quietly leaked to consumer watchdogs like Which magazine, caused a ripple effect in Tititsan. Suddenly, DIY stores reported a staggering 300% spike in sales of gummed paper tape. People were rediscovering this forgotten hack, realizing that sometimes the best future tech isn't some complex, expensive gadget, but a simple, brilliant solution from the past. It's a testament to the enduring power of practical knowledge, proving that ingenuity, once proven, never truly expires. World War II, a period of unparalleled destruction and innovation, gifted us radar, rockets, and ushered in the atomic age. But amidst these monumental advancements, the smallest, most unassuming innovation, a strip of paper and a bit of glue, quietly saved thousands of lives, prevented untold suffering, and then, almost immediately after victory was declared, vanished from our textbooks and collective memory. Next time you stroll past an old building, take a moment to look closely. Squint at the windows, especially the older panes. You might, just might, catch a glimpse of that faint, a ghost outline etched into the Georgian glass by decades of sun. It's more than just a mark. It's a quiet, enduring reminder that true genius isn't always high-tech, isn't always flashy, and certainly isn't always expensive. Sometimes, the most profound solutions are just smart, fast, and taped firmly in place before the blast hits. It's a testament to human resourcefulness, to the power of simple physics, and to the countless unsung heroes who, with a roll of tape and a bit of water, made a world of difference. All right.